So imagine the biggest musical artist in the entire world,
Okay, I'm picturing it.
right? And they are at the absolute peak of their commercial dominance. I mean, they have completely figured out the formula. The record label is just printing money at this point.
Oh, yeah. The radio stations are just playing their songs on an hourly loop.
Exactly. They are completely untouchable. So the traditional, logical move at that point for basically anyone in the industry is to protect the asset.
Right, you lock it down.
You stay in your lane, you maybe refine the formula just a little bit every couple of years, and you coast.
You coast on a very comfortable, very lucrative ladder of success. That is the dream for like 99% of musicians.
Right. But now, imagine that exact same artist just deciding they don't want to play that game anymore.
At all.
At all.
Okay.
Instead, they start stealing other people's instrumentals, recording over them in this chaotic just stream of consciousness frenzy,
Wow.
and then giving the music away for free on the internet.
Just bypassing the label entirely.
Entirely. And, then just to further alienate the people who literally built their career, they pick up a guitar and record a rock album.
I mean, on paper, that sounds like a textbook case of self-sabotage.
It really does, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you pitched that exact career trajectory to like an A&R executive at a major label, they would look at you like you were crazy.
They'd laugh you out of the room.
They would tell you it is a guaranteed recipe for career suicide because you are actively destroying the infrastructure that makes you profitable.
Yet, for Lil Wayne, dismantling his own success wasn't career suicide at all.
No, not even close.
It was basically the masterstroke that made him a generational icon.
It's wild to think about.
It really is. And we are getting into some genuinely fascinating cultural analysis today for this deep dive.
Yeah, we are.
It originates from the Rotation Report, specifically a piece titled Wayne versus Wayne versus Wayne.
Which is such a great title, by the way.
So good. And the core premise they lay out right at the start is just bold. They say Lil Wayne is the best rapper alive.
Just a flat-out declaration.
Exactly. But, and I want to be super clear with you listening, the mission of our deep dive today is not to debate ranking lists.
Right. We're not doing the whole top 5 conversation.
No, we're not pitting him against his peers or arguing about who had the best year. We are looking at the actual anatomy of his dominance.
Which is way more interesting anyway.
I think so too. Because the argument here is that what separates him from the pack isn't just, raw technical skill.
Even though he obviously has them.
Right, he has that in spades. But it is this relentless, almost restless obsession with outgrowing himself.
Yeah, the defining characteristic we really need to track today is metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis. I love that word for this.
Right, because we are looking at an artist who fundamentally rejected the concept of a static peak.
Which is so rare. I mean, in most fields, peak performance is treated as this plateau.
Exactly. You climb the mountain, you plant your flag, and then your only job for the rest of your life is to defend that real estate.
Right, you fend off the newcomers.
But the analysis we're exploring today suggests that for an artist of this specific caliber, the moment you stop evolving, you actually begin descending.
Oh, that's a powerful way to put it. So dominance isn't secured by holding your ground.
No, it's secured by constantly abandoning it for new, totally unpredictable territory.
That is such a wild psychological wiring to have.
It really is.
And to understand how someone develops that willingness to basically burn down a successful house just to see what else you can build on the empty lot, we have to go back to the foundation.
We have to look at the environment that built him.
Right. So let's take you back to the late 1990s.
A totally different era.
Completely. The rap landscape was highly regional back then. You had the New York scene, you had the Los Angeles scene, and then you had this massive, undeniable surge coming out of the South.
Specifically New Orleans.
Yes, New Orleans. And it was all driven by Cash Money Records.
Which was an absolute juggernaut.
A total machine. And Wayne enters this specific ecosystem as a member of a group called the Hot Boys.
And understanding the internal dynamics of the Hot Boys is so critical to this whole deep dive because it establishes his baseline.
Right, he wasn't the star.
Exactly. He wasn't the focal point at all. Cash Money Records had a very specific, highly successful formula.
And it was driven by their in-house producer, right?
Yes, Manny Fresh. The beats were bounce-heavy, hyper-energetic, and really tailored to the established stars of the label.
So when you look at the Hot Boys as a unit, every other member occupied a highly defined, culturally necessary archetype.
Yeah, let's actually break those archetypes down because the contrast is what makes Wayne's story so interesting.
Okay, so first you had Juvenile,
Right.
who was essentially the commercial engine of the whole group.
He was the hit maker.
Exactly. He had the massive, undeniable radio hits. I mean, songs like Back That Ass Up that were literally dictating the sound of clubs worldwide.
You couldn't go anywhere without hearing Juvenile.
You really couldn't. Then on the flip side, you had BG.
Yeah, BG was crucial.
He provided the heavy, authentic street presence. I mean, he literally coined the term bling bling.
Which is insane when you think about
It
it.
shifted the entire cultural lexicon with 2 words.
He really did.
And then finally, you had Turk.
Right, and Turk brought this raw, unfiltered edge to the tracks.
So from an organizational standpoint, that is a perfectly balanced ecosystem.
It's flawless. You have your commercial viability, you have your cultural authenticity, and you have your street-level intensity.
It's a complete package.
And the group functioned flawlessly precisely because those 3 older members were carrying the weight of all those expectations.
Right. Which leaves Wayne.
Yeah, which leaves Wayne.
He was just a teenager. I mean, he was literally 14, maybe 15 years old when this phenomenon was taking off.
He was a literal kid.
The youngest in the room. And he had this very distinct, almost adolescent vocal tone.
Yeah, it was very unique.
And frankly, as the analysis points out, he was the member people basically assumed would fade out once the group's momentum slowed down.
People just viewed him as the little brother.
Exactly. He was viewed as having potential, sure, but it was incredibly unpolished.
But the dynamic of being the youngest in a room full of established heavyweights is a fascinating double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you are constantly overshadowed. Your voice isn't the one driving the sales or the radio play.
Right, nobody's looking to you to carry the project.
But the profound advantage, and this is a point the rotation report heavily emphasizes, is that he was afforded the greatest luxury a developing mind can have.
Which is what?
Proximity to excellence without the immediate burden of expectation.
Oh, wow. Proximity without expectation. That completely changes the entire pressure cooker of the music industry.
It changes everything.
It really makes me think of like a highly touted rookie point guard entering professional basketball.
Okay, I like this analogy. Run with it.
So let's say you have this 18-year-old kid. If that kid gets drafted to the worst team in the league, the franchise hands him the ball on day 1 and says, save us.
Right. Be the franchise player immediately.
Exactly. The pressure is just suffocating. They have to score. They have to lead the offense. They have to face the media after every brutal loss.
And more often than not, what happens?
That rookie burns out. Or they develop terrible foundational habits because they are purely operating in survival mode.
Yes. The demand for immediate production crushes their long-term development.
Because they never have the space to learn the actual nuances of the game.
They're too busy just trying to keep the team afloat.
Exactly. But if that exact same rookie gets drafted to a championship-winning team...
A team with veteran all-stars?
Right, a team that is already scoring the points and managing the media... that rookie gets to sit on the bench.
They aren't expected to win the game for the team.
No. Instead, they get to watch how the veterans read a defense. They get to observe the grueling practice habits that actually create a championship run.
They absorb the mechanics of greatness from the inside.
And that is precisely what the Hot Boys era represented for Lil Wayne. He was on the bench of a championship team.
Because Juvenile was ensuring the records sold, and BG was ensuring the streets respected the music. So Wayne was shielded. He didn't have to carry the collective. He could afford to just be a sponge.
And the analysis says he was paying attention.
He was downloading the software of a superstar before he ever possessed the hardware to run it.
I love that he had the cover of darkness to make mistakes.
Exactly. Which is so rare in music.
I mean, if an unpolished artist needs to try a weird vocal inflection or, test out a rhyme scheme that ultimately falls flat, doing that as the lead artist on a multi-million-dollar album is catastrophic.
Your career is over before it starts.
Right. But doing it as the little brother on a track featuring 3 other superstars.
It's just a kid finding his way. Nobody holds it against him.
Exactly. The lack of intense scrutiny allowed him to treat those early studio sessions as a laboratory.
Rather than a final exam.
Yes. He was studying the mechanics of hit-making, the cadence of authenticity, and the sheer energy required to command a track.
But, eventually the sponge gets full.
It does. You can't stay the observant little brother forever.
Especially not in a genre that is fundamentally fueled by ego and dominance.
Right. Which brings us to a massive psychological and artistic shift in his story.
The transition out of the Hot Boys.
Yes, the transition from the Hot Boys era into what became his solo dominance.
Anchored by the Carter album series?
Yes, the Carter series. So how does an artist go from just paying attention to the background to actively demanding the spotlight?
Well, the transition from childhood to adulthood in basically any creative field is marked by the replacement of imitation with intention.
Imitation with intention. That's a great distinction.
Right, because when he was the kid in the room, his sound, his cadence, and his lyrical content were largely just reflections of the environment Manny Fresh and the older members created.
He was mirroring them.
Exactly. But the shift into the Carter era represents a profound leap in autonomy.
And the word intention really is the key here. The text notes that he stopped sounding like the kid in the room, and he started sounding like someone who knew exactly what he wanted to be.
The album ceased to be just, collections of fun, energetic songs.
Right. They became structured statements.
And a statement implies a thesis.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It implies that the artist has a specific argument they are bringing to the culture.
And we see this manifest physically in his craft during this phase.
The raw, unpolished energy of the late 90s was suddenly channeled through this highly disciplined delivery mechanism.
The bars became sharper.
Much sharper. And the vocabulary expanded exponentially.
I really want to focus on the mechanics of that evolution for a second. Because when we say a rapper got sharper, what does that actually mean to you listening?
Right, it's not just a buzzword.
It isn't just about rapping faster or louder. The hunger he exhibited during this era wasn't this wild, chaotic ambition.
It was surgical precision.
Yes, surgical precision.
And surgical precision in hip-hop relates directly to how an artist manipulates syllables and rhythm.
Walk us through that.
So in his early days, the rhyme schemes were relatively straightforward.
Like end-of-line rhymes.
Exactly. End-of-line rhymes that landed cleanly on the snare drum. Very traditional, very safe.
Basically what everyone was doing.
Right. But during the Carter era, you start hearing these incredibly dense internal rhymes.
Oh, yeah.
He is suddenly rhyming 3 or 4 syllables in the middle of a bar.
Just casually dropping them in.
Right. And then he's carrying that exact same vowel sound through the next 3 lines.
And doing it all while building toward a devastating punchline.
Exactly. It requires intense focus.
He started treating the beat not just as a metronome to keep time, but as a canvas.
That's a really good way to put it.
Like he's pausing, he's letting a beat breathe for a second, and then dropping a metaphor that literally forces the listener to hit rewind.
You have to go back and say, wait, what did he just say?
Right. It's the difference between trying to get someone's attention or just shouting in a crowded room.
Which is wild ambition.
Exactly. Versus walking into that same room, speaking in a quiet, incredibly intense whisper, and forcing the entire room to lean in to hear you.
That is the perfect distinction between frantic ambition and undeniable mastery.
And that's when the goal shifted, right?
Yeah. He went from wanting to be a good rapper or a famous rapper to wanting to be undeniable.
Let's unpack that concept for a second. Being undeniable.
It's a heavy word.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because, being good means you have a solid fan base.
You sell some records.
Right. Being great means you win awards and you leave a legacy. But undeniable is a terrifyingly high bar.
Because it leaves no room for debate.
0. It means that even the hip-hop purists in New York, who traditionally dismissed Southern rap completely, or the critics who just thought he was a novelty act from the Cash Money era,
they were all completely backed into a corner.
They had to acknowledge his pen game was elite. There was no argument left.
And achieving that level of undeniability requires mastering the established rules of the industry to such an extreme degree that you begin to bend them.
Bending the game. The text talks about this. What does bending an industry actually mean?
Well, to bend a game, you first have to know its architecture perfectly.
Which he did.
Right. He knew the structure of a hit song inside and out. He understood pacing. He understood how features worked. He understood radio appeal.
Most artists spend their entire careers just trying to execute those established rules effectively.
Just trying to play the game well.
Right. But bending the game means your sheer talent and your momentum become so heavy that the industry has to contort itself to fit around you.
The gravity shifts.
Oh, the gravity shifts. I love that.
Instead of the artists contorting themselves to fit the label's marketing plan or, the radio station's preferred sound,
the artist becomes the sun.
And the rest of the industry becomes the planets orbiting them.
Wow. And we really saw this with his feature run during this era.
Oh, it was unprecedented.
He was dominating the charts, not just with his own albums, but by being the most requested guest verse in the entire world.
He was everywhere.
He was setting the price, and he was setting the pace.
He was dictating the terms of reality for the genre.
Okay, so he achieves this surgical precision. He creates these masterfully intentional albums with the Carter series.
A master phase.
Right. He proves to the world that the unpolished kid is now the undeniable architect of his own destiny.
So logically, what's the next step?
Well, logically, you protect that status. You keep making highly polished albums, you keep working with top-tier producers, and you maximize the revenue of the lane you just conquered.
Which, again, is the standard operating procedure for 99% of the music industry.
Right. But he doesn't do that.
Not at all.
And this brings us to the next phase in the analysis, the most chaotic, rule-breaking phase of his entire career.
The mixtape era.
Yes. Once he bent the system to his will, he just decided to break the system entirely.
He dismantled it.
We transitioned from the calculated architect to the feral, untethered mixtape monster.
Feral is a great word for it. And honestly, this era is arguably the most critical component of his legacy.
Why do you say that?
Because we're moving from highly polished, label-approved statements, like we saw with the Carter albums, to a wildly experimental, entirely decentralized period.
And to understand why this was so radical, we really have to talk about the mechanics of the music industry at that time.
Yeah, the mid-2000s industry was a totally different beast than today.
It was built on a very slow, highly bureaucratic rhythm.
Very slow.
I mean, an artist would spend 6 months just recording an album in a super expensive studio.
Right.
Then, the label's legal team would spend months clearing the samples.
Which is a nightmare.
Totally. Which means tracking down the original copyright holders of any sound used, negotiating a fee, getting the paperwork signed.
It takes forever.
And then, after all that, the marketing department spends another 3 months setting up a rollout.
Picking a lead single, shooting $1 million video.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a massive, sluggish machine designed primarily to mitigate financial risk.
It's a corporate bottleneck. And it completely dictates the speed of cultural consumption.
Because the industry controlled exactly when and how fans received the music.
Right.
And Wayne looked at that slow-moving machine.
And he realized his creative output was moving 100 times faster than the bureaucracy could handle.
He just had too much to say.
He didn't have time to wait for marketing meetings. He didn't have time for sample clearances.
So what does he do? He hijacks the culture's infrastructure.
He bypassed the traditional gatekeepers entirely.
By utilizing the mixtape circuit.
Yeah, heavily collaborating with figures like DJ Drama and the Gangsta Grillz series.
And we should clarify for anyone listening who might not know, a mixtape in this context wasn't a polished album sold in Best Buy.
No, not at all.
It was a street-level release.
Yeah.
It eventually transitioned to internet platforms like DatPiff, but it was distributed for free or sold independently outside the label's purview.
It's essentially the music industry equivalent of a rogue hacker.
Oh, a hacker. Let's dig into that analogy.
Think about a brilliant software developer working for a massive tech conglomerate.
Okay.
They write this incredible revolutionary code, but to get it to the public, the corporation demands a 2-year quality assurance process, focus groups, endless committee approvals.
Right. A million hoops to jump through.
And the developer is so restless, so overflowing with ideas that they just bypass the mainframe entirely.
Wait, don't wait.
They start uploading raw, unpatched code directly to underground forums. They aren't waiting for permission. They are rewriting the rules of distribution in real time.
That is incredibly apt, because the mixtape era was entirely about raw, unpatched, creative code.
It was pure, unfiltered output.
And the audacity of his approach during this time was just unprecedented.
Oh, it's so aggressive.
Because he wasn't just recording original songs, he was systematically taking the biggest hit songs on the radio.
Produced by other people?
Right, produced by other people, for other artists, and he was just rapping over them.
He just took them.
That is the part that still blows my mind to this day.
It's wild.
He would take a beat that was currently a #1 hit for another superstar, like, say, Jay-Z's Show Me What You Got, or Mike Jones's Mr. Jones.
Massive, massive songs.
And he would just record a verse over it in a couple of hours. And his verse was so technically superior, so culturally dominant.
That he effectively erased the original artist's claim to their own song.
Yes. People would hear the original song playing in a club, And they would genuinely wonder why the DJ wasn't playing the Lil Wayne version.
It was a hostile takeover of the airwaves.
And he did it without spending a dime on production.
He weaponized his work ethic to ensure that his voice was completely inescapable.
But wait, I want to look at the actual mechanics of the rapping itself during this mixtape era.
Okay, let's look at the flow.
Because earlier we talked about the surgical precision and the intense focus of the Carter era.
Right, the master craftsman.
But the rotation report specifically notes that during the mixtapes, his flow changed drastically.
It did.
His delivery got incredibly loose. The bars got wilder, more free associative.
It was a totally different style.
So my question is, if he's trading that laser focus for this chaotic looseness, wasn't he risking a massive drop in quality? I mean, how do you reconcile surgical precision with chaotic looseness?
You reconcile it by understanding that the mixtapes were a laboratory.
A laboratory, okay.
Think back to the master craftsman analogy. The surgical precision of the Carter albums proved he could build perfect, sturdy furniture.
Right, he proved he had the technical skills.
But a master craftsman who only builds the exact same perfect chair over and over again eventually suffocates creatively.
They get bored.
Exactly. The looseness of the mixtape era wasn't a loss of focus, it was the removal of boundary.
Oh, I see. So he's taking off the training wheels of traditional song structure.
Precisely. When you remove the pressure of the official album release, when a song doesn't need a catchy chorus for the radio, and it doesn't need to fit a cohesive commercial narrative, you remove the fear of failure.
You can just experiment.
He was operating with this incredible stream of consciousness delivery. This is the era where the physical act of his recording actually changed.
Oh, right. He largely stopped writing lyrics down on paper, didn't he?
He did. He would go into the booth, listen to the beat, and just punch in line by line right off the top of his head.
You can physically hear that looseness in the audio of those tapes.
You really can.
You hear the famous flick of the lighter before the beat drops.
Oh, iconic.
You hear him inhaling, wheezing, laughing at his own jokes before he delivers the next punchline.
It felt so intimate.
It really did. It felt less like you were listening to a polished product that went through mastering, and more like you were sitting on the couch in the studio at 4 a.m.
Just watching a genius workshop his ideas in real time.
Exactly. And that level of intimacy with the listener is intoxicating.
It is. And he was manipulating rhythm in ways traditional rap just hadn't seen before.
Yeah, he would deliberately rap slightly behind the beat, ignoring the snare drum.
Just letting the instrumental breathe for a second before casually dropping a devastating metaphor.
And the observation the text makes here is profound. It says, this wasn't evolution for the sake of change. This was an artist realizing there were no limits.
Realizing there are no limits within your chosen medium.
He dominated the album format.
Yep.
He hacked the distribution model with the mixtapes.
He did.
And he proved he could rap better than literally anyone else alive.
So, which forces a very difficult question.
What's next?
Right. When you have conquered every single corner of the rap genre, what is the logical next step for an artist whose entire identity is built on metamorphosis?
Well, if the boundaries of the genre no longer hold you, you have to push beyond the genre itself.
You have to break out completely.
And that transition brings us to the most controversial, perplexing, and honestly, arguably necessary phase of his career.
Oh, yeah. The rebirth era.
The rock pivot.
The moment he decided to pick up a guitar.
This is a massive, jarring left turn.
It shocked everyone.
I mean, we are talking about an artist who has just achieved absolute, undeniable dominance in hip-hop. His superpower is his pen, his linguistic dexterity, his command of rhythm.
He is the wordplay king.
And suddenly, he releases a rock-inspired album. Heavy on auto-tune, heavy on distorted guitars, leaning heavily into skate culture.
It was completely out of left field.
He essentially disarmed himself of his greatest weapons.
And it is crucial to understand the sheer magnitude of the backlash this caused.
Oh, people were mad.
The hip-hop purists were furious. Music critics were deeply confused.
But we have to view this through the lens of industry expectations, right?
Yes. The industry builds lanes. You find what an artist does best, you brand it, and you milk that lane for decades.
You don't deviate.
Right. To step out of that lane so violently is terrifying to the people whose livelihoods depend on your predictable revenue.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Taking a risk is great in theory, sure. But if you are the greatest rapper alive and you release a rock album where you are, let's be honest, a novice guitar player.
True.
And your core fan base absolutely hates it, isn't that just bad business masking as artistic honesty?
That's a fair question.
Isn't that just unchecked ego alienating the people who literally put you on top? How is this a necessary phase of evolution, rather than just a massive misstep?
Look, it is a totally valid critique, and the analysis doesn't shy away from the reality of the reception at all.
Right, it acknowledges that.
It openly admits that not every risk landed. Commercially and critically, it was a fractured era for him.
It definitely was.
But the value of the Rebirth era isn't found in the technical proficiency of the rock music.
Okay, where is it found then?
The value is found in the assertion of absolute autonomy.
Autonomy. So the product mattered less than the process.
Exactly. Think about the psychology of a superstar. The only leverage the record label, the media, and even the fans have over an artist is the artist's fear of failure.
Oh, wow. If you're afraid to flop, they control you.
Yes. If an artist is terrified of releasing a flop, they will always capitulate to the demands of the market. They will stay comfortable.
Because comfortable pays the bills.
Right. But the analysis posits a brilliant framework here. Wayne was never trying to stay comfortable. He was trying to stay honest to whatever his creative impulse was at that exact moment.
Comfort versus honesty. That is a brutal tug-of-war for any creator.
It really is. Comfort is safe, it's predictable revenue. But for a truly restless artist, comfort is a slow creative death.
It's stagnation.
It's like a Michelin star French chef.
Okay, I love your analogies. Let's hear it.
So you have this chef, renowned globally for his delicate, intricate sauces, pristine plating, the whole fine dining experience.
The absolute best in the world at French cuisine.
Right. And one day, the chef wakes up, realizes he is just bored out of his mind, walks out of his luxury restaurant, and opens a messy, loud, chaotic street taco stand.
Just completely abandons the fine dining.
Yes. And all the food critics who loved his French cuisine show up to the taco stand furious.
They're screaming, "Where is the truffle reduction? Why is this so unrefined? You are ruining your legacy."
Exactly. The critics feel betrayed because they want the comfortable, predictable greatness they are used to.
They want the hits.
But the chef doesn't care, because making tacos is the honest reflection of his current passion.
By refusing to let the industry or the fans dictate his output, Wayne removed their leverage.
Completely. If you are willing to fail publicly, you are truly free.
Wow. The point wasn't creating a flawless rock album. The point was proving he would never let the industry decide what version of him was acceptable.
That willingness to fail publicly is the ultimate flex of creative independence.
It really is. But it brings up a really fascinating dynamic between the visionary and the consumer.
How so?
Well, when an artist takes a massive leap like that and the audience rejects it, who is actually failing?
That's a great question.
Is the artist failing to communicate their new vision effectively? Or is the audience just lagging behind, unable to process the evolution fast enough?
Historically, it is almost always the audience lagging behind.
You think so?
Definitely. Look, when an artist conditions you to expect the surgical bars of the Carter albums, your brain gets comfortable with that specific dopamine hit.
You expect a certain sound.
When the artist shatters that formula, the initial reaction is always rejection. It lacks the familiar comfort.
But look at the long-term impact of Rebirth.
Exactly. The initial backlash was fierce. But 10 years later, you look at the landscape of mainstream music.
And the blending of melodic, auto-tuned rap with punk rock aesthetics and emo-leaning lyrics basically became the dominant sound for an entire generation of new artists.
He was speaking a new language, and the audience was still holding the old dictionary.
That's a fantastic way to phrase it. He arrived at the destination years before the culture even realized they were traveling there.
Which is the burden of constant metamorphosis. You are always going to be misunderstood in the present moment because you are operating in the future.
This brings us perfectly to the grand synthesis of his career.
The big picture.
Right. When we pull back and look at this macro-level trajectory, we go from the observing kid absorbing greatness on the bench,
to the intentional architect bending the industry with precision,
to the rule-breaking mixtape monster rewriting distribution entirely,
to the genre-defying rock risk-taker.
When you lay it all out like that, you see this staggering rejection of the norm. Most artists find a lane and pave it for 20 years to build consistency.
But Wayne's consistency was his inconsistency.
His loyalty was never to a specific sound.
His loyalty was entirely to the process of change itself.
And the psychological burden of doing that in front of the entire world is immense.
Most people go through their messy, personal, and professional evolutions in private.
Right. We fail, we pivot, and we reinvent ourselves away from the public eye.
But he chose to undergo his metamorphosis on a global stage.
knowing full well that every time he shed a skin, he was going to alienate a portion of his audience.
But every version, whether it was beloved by the masses or hated by the critics, was a radically honest reflection of his mindset at that specific second in time.
So the ultimate takeaway from this whole cultural analysis is really a total redefinition of what peak performance looks like.
We really have to discard the metaphor of the ladder.
Right. Earlier, I brought up the ladder. The idea of a clean, linear climb to the top where you just sit and enjoy the view. If his career is in a ladder, what is it?
It's a centrifuge.
A centrifuge. Break that down for me.
It is a machine spinning at such a high velocity that it constantly separates the essential from the non-essential.
Okay.
It's pushing outward, generating immense energy through constant volatile motion.
And the moment the centrifuge stops spinning.
The energy dies.
Yeah.
His dominance wasn't about holding a title, it was about outrunning his own shadow.
Outrunning his own shadow.
Mhm.
Wow. We've covered a massive amount of psychological and artistic ground today on this deep dive.
We really have.
We've seen how the mechanics of hip-hop, the structure of the music industry, and the terrifying vulnerability of public experimentation all collided to create an artist who simply refused to be boxed in.
He didn't just participate in the culture.
No. He actively challenged its expectations of him at every single turn.
It is a roadmap of relentless, unapologetic growth. And it forces us to question our own definitions of success and artistic integrity.
It really does. Which leaves us with one final profound thought to send you off with today.
A parting thought.
Yes. Think about everything we've unpacked here today. The quiet kid paying attention, the master craftsman, the chaotic hacker, the risk-taker demanding autonomy.
Look at that entire messy, brilliant trajectory.
The source material poses a brilliant closing question, and I want you to really mull over the implications of it on your own. It speaks to the difference between calculated, cynical marketing reinvention and simply living your authentic human growth on a public stage.
It's a fine line.
It is. So ask yourself, was Lil Wayne relentlessly evolving? Or was he just the first rapper we watched grow up in real time?